direct result of. We're definitely getting better at managing our database. So I think that helps. And then, you know, we have some really amazing people too. And that, oh my gosh, game changer, right? One of my, did I start recording? I think I did. Yeah, I did. Okay. One of my mentors, Ben Kinney, always says, no matter what problem you have, it's always a people problem. So, and I've always remembered that, and it's really true. You know, sometimes I'm the people problem too. So,
Funny.
all right. Well, I had kind of a little thing. Our speaker Bethany today had to cancel last minute. She's got the crud and I'm feeling really like today, so I'm really hoping that I'm not next on that list because I don't want to be. But we'll see how it goes here. But we're going to get going. So Thrive Mastermind is a mastermind with high performing agents, what they're doing in their business to thrive in a shifted market. My name's Darcy Novak. I have a team in northern Minnesota. We started a local mastermind group and really brought so much value to these agents. And it came at a perfect time. We were shifting out of that COVID market and things were just different, right? We had in 2023, like 26,000, I think, agents left the industry. You know, with the current changes that we're facing, I would anticipate that we're going to see a lot more. Community is really important, right? Who we surround ourselves matters in this world and in this life and on this life journey. And so we love hanging around people who are like-minded. So that's what kind of brings us all here today. We want to see all of our friends and colleagues in this industry kicking butt, taking names, and empowering other people, because that's what we're here for. So reminders of the call: be kind and respectful, no recruiting. We do have lots of agents from different agencies on these calls. Take notes, be engaged, ask questions, please. Share your experiences that you think will help somebody else. There's a reason why we have 5 senses to communicate, right? We got to use them in this world. And the goal of the mastermind is really just to bring in different people, talk about their habits, activities, mindsets to help them get consistent results, not dependent on the trends of the market and economy. It's really easy to get trapped in that victim mindset, not just in this industry, but in our world in general. And we want to be really proactive, right? And keep that ball moving forward. So today's intentions for this call today is to win every single day. So it's my goal, win every single day. That's what I want for the people I care about. I want them winning every single day and finding happiness. We're also going to talk a little bit about quieting the noise in the industry right now. There's lots going on. Everybody's phone's buzzing. I spent the last few days calling a lot of my agent friends and asking like where they're at and, you know, their thoughts. And boy, it's like, whew, floodgates opened on every call. Everybody's like, oh boy, I got some news to share, right? So it's affecting everybody. And how can we accommodate that mindset through change and bring value to the people that we're serving through our clients? So that is the goal. Our perception is our reality. Go ahead and put in the chat really quick for me, what's the first thing that goes through your mind when you look at this picture? And I get see if I can get smart enough to chat. Long commute. Yeah. So traffic jam, stress. Yeah, for sure. Almost dark. No, thank you. That's right, Cheryl. That's why we live in the woods. Busy world. When I was a young woman, I used to live out in LA, and I'd sit in these traffic jams with like 6, you know, there's like 6 car lanes on each side, and I have no idea how I got all around without GPS. It's still a mystery to me. I'd love to people watch and stare at people in their cars and see how they would all handle, you know, it. And some people are just cranking the tune, some are half asleep. Some people are madder than hell. Some are flipping me off. Like there's just all ranges of emotions, right? The exact same circumstance. We are all going through, and every single person has a different perception on it, right? You know, it's always been fascinating to me how we have the ability to control this too, and what we can do. In chat, I'm curious, how many people do you think in America are happy? What percentage? Three people in all of America, Tom says, are happy right now. Oh my gosh, 12%, Lisa. That's a good guess. 33, Tom says. They say, and how they measure happiness, I have absolutely no idea. John is really optimistic. He's got 48%. I love that. Actually, 14% is what they say. And what's interesting to note is they say that optimistic people live 10% longer than pessimistic people. So if we have 14% of our population that's happy, man, we got a problem in this nation, right? We gotta do something like pump this energy up for sure. So, oopsie, my screen went back here. Hold on a second. Okay. Missed my, sorry about that. There we go. Back in. Okay. So I had recently read this book called The Gap in the Gain. Has anybody read this book? Tom, give me your thoughts.
Well, I wasn't ready. Man, the gap in the, see, it's been a while. The gap is what you don't have, and the gain is what the strides that you've made is kind of, and I may be misremembering that, but he's one of my favorite authors.
Yeah.
And it's just really good. But if you get me going, I can remember it very well.
I love it. This book was sent to me by one of my mentors, and it sat on my shelf in a box for like 6 months. And then finally I decided to give up TV and decided to crack open a couple of books. And this is one of the ones that I cracked open, and it was like, whoa. You know, and it really is, like you said, Tom, it's based on that glass half empty, glass half full kind of mentality, right, that we have in this world. The way this book starts off, really, like, it sucked me right in. It's Thomas Jefferson's words: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Guess what, America? We are never actually going to be happy. We're just going to run ragged, trying to keep up with the Joneses in pursuit of it all, right? And isn't that like just almost uncanny? I mean, he had no idea about Facebook or social media, or, you know, how crazy out of control media would be getting, right, in 2024. But he sure knew that we were going to be building a culture based on pursuing happiness. And this really intrigued me. So, you know, sometimes we're chasing that external happiness, and we're judging external happiness based on other people, or based on how we compare ourselves to other people. And when we're going outward for stuff instead of going inward for stuff, we're not going to get the stuff, right? So living in the gap. Why does this keep missing my screens? I don't know why this keeps going back. Where's my screen? Okay, here we are. So I want you guys to think of this like ideals and goals kind of thing. They're not a measuring stick, right? They are to provide us with direction, motivation, and meaning to our lives. Goals should be not set to achieve happiness, but they should really be set to expand our happiness, right? So the way that this little cartoon character kind of works out in the explanation of the gap versus the gain mentality. For instance, let's say that I'm looking at my day today, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I promised myself I was going to make X amount of client calls, and I have not made any calls today. I'm not going to do any business with anybody ever again if I can't have a real estate conversation, right? And so I start beating myself up. I'm like, gosh, you know, my goal is here. I know I have to hit this many calls every day, and I didn't make it. Now I'm, you know, and I start getting stuck in that loop of being in the gap, right? The gap. And I know I've been working with agents for a long time and trying to help them with their goals. And honestly, when I read this book, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have been leading them all wrong for like 18 years. And the reason why is because we're going through our year planning, right? We usually do ours in like October, November, and then we're having monthly check-ins and we're checking to see like, where's the gap, right? Well, here's your goal, Miss Agent and or Mr. Agent, and here's where you are. And then our whole conversation is focused on the gap, right? And what this is saying is instead, look and see like, and not going back like way far, but going back from today and seeing like, where are you today? So maybe I only made 5 great conversations instead of 20, and instead of beating myself up about this, instead celebrating and saying, I might have a problem. Celebrating and saying that that gosh, I had 5 really beautiful conversations with people today. Or gosh, you know what? I asked a lot more questions today. I dove a lot deeper. I was able to connect and really a lot, focusing your train of thought on only what went right, only what you won at. And what happens is it just creates this momentum, right, around what we're doing. So I am curious. I would love to hear from you some examples of give me a problem that you're having in this world right now, or somebody you care about is having in this world right now, or a friend or a family member, any problem. Play along. Anybody.
I'll step up.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, I always do. Full disclosure, and I know John Evans, one of my teammates, is on this call, but I would just say that it's been a little bit rough as the leader of a real estate team to see people kind of being a little bit lazy, in my opinion. But I have to come to terms with the fact that I work 3x more than most people, and at that level, everyone looks lazy.
Yeah. That's a real world problem, Paul. Thank you.
A good problem to have.
Thank you for stepping up to the plate. That's awesome. So, the way this gap in the game goes is like we can get stuck in that gap, right? And we can be like, they didn't do this. Oh my gosh, they had this opportunity. They didn't show up for this. Why in the world, we're bringing that horse to water. Why the heck can't that sucker drink? I'm making it as thirsty as possible, right? And just sometimes do you feel like you maybe care more about their goals than they do?
Yes, I heard you're exactly right. You nailed them all. I heard a really awesome quote yesterday, and it goes like this. Tell me if you've heard this. You can't push talent. Talent pushes you.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Something like that. You can't push motivation. Motivation can't. Yeah, I think it's talent.
Yeah. And I'll go back to the beginning of the call when I said that I have this mentor who says any problem that we have in business is a people problem, right? And I know I went through this for many years on my team. Delaney, you want to speak to that?
Sorry, I got in my car. I thought it connected.
No, you're good. Delaney can speak to that. And what happens is, the rising tide raises all ships, right? And when we realize that this is a people problem, and sometimes to be honest, as a leader, I'm the problem, because instead of meeting people where they are at and really looking back, and when they say go look back, right? We're not looking back in the last 6 months. We're looking back today. Let's just go through today, right? Was it I think Zig Ziglar said, you show me the day of a man and I'll show you the life of a man, right? Because it's all those little habits that keep building up. So Paul, if you can, I do want you to be safe because I know you're driving. talk to me about, like, if you could take this problem and get stuck in that gain mindset, well, give me the blessings that are coming out of this entire experience for you.
Yeah, they really are so numerous, and people do continue to show up even in these, seemingly dark times where our industry could be changing. I don't think it'll change very much, but if it does, we're preparing for it and we're getting stronger along the way. People are showing up, engaging to those things, even if they're not making their calls or prospecting very much. They're earnestly participating, and that's huge for me.
Wow, that's a
There's so
beautiful
many
win.
things I can say. Yeah. And we're growing. Our little brokerage and my branch is growing every week, which is incredible. There's so much to be thankful for. So much.
So how can you take all those beautiful wins that you just shared with us, and you can create kind of a ripple effect to increase more winning?
I gotta do a better job of reinforcing the small to large, wonderful things that people do, because people subconsciously or consciously can tell that you've been neutral to critical more than positive, for sure. People are very sensitive to that.
Can I make a suggestion to that, Paul?
Yes.
So I accepted a challenge where I did a gratitude journal, and each day I did 3 gratitudes, something that I was grateful for. And you've got a team. What if every day you tell somebody something about them that you're grateful for, so that they're like, oh man, he's not just pushing me, he cares because he noticed that, whatever, something along those lines. That goes a long ways.
That is absolutely golden. Absolutely. Thank you.
Well
Sure.
said, Tom. We appreciate your vulnerability, Paul. It's part of our cultural thing, right? Where we're trying to sometimes display that everything's rosy and perfect in our world kind of thing. And that's exactly what this conversation is about, and about this book, The Gap and the Gain. And we're not really being real sometimes. And we can't solve our problems if we're not being real, right?
That's right.
So it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Who else has another real world problem? Can be business related, could be personal, it doesn't matter. I am so glad none of you have any problems. This is really beautiful. This is the group I want to hang in right here.
I think what's interesting is next week I'm doing a presentation on the fallibility of the question why. And part of the gap in my mind comes from people asking the question, why? Why am I not more like him? Why am I not achieving my goals, instead of formulating it as a declaration? This is why I'm doing that kind of thing. And because really that why question makes you pause. And I mean, this is really kind of part of my presentation. It makes you pause and look back. And so you can't see into the future if you're looking back. And in fact, your awareness of the present ceases at the same time. And so people, and I'm definitely guilty of the gap. I wish all kinds of things. But people that are identifying with the gap are more stuck in the why can't I, instead of what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And what are my steps going to be? But that, to me, asking why is a question that just mires us in the past. That's the biggest challenge.
Well said. I really like that. It's thank you for contributing, Tom. That's really beautifully mentioned. I think we have to be careful, right? We have to be careful with our thoughts, and we have to be careful with our words, because they do matter. So did anybody have another problem, or are we all problem free? One problem. Come on, let's gain this problem out. Anybody at all? We're going to get into the current problem that we all have, which is the NAR problem, pretty soon, right? So let's talk about that in a little bit here, about gap in the gain. But remember, living in the gap leaves you never satisfied. You or the people, right? Do we not? We do this a lot with people we care about, right? Oh gosh, mom, why'd you buy that again? Or geez, when are you bringing out the garbage, right? To the kids or whatever. We are really good at that gap stuff. And sometimes it's like that bullying mindset, and we're probably worse on ourselves sometimes. Not measuring up. We compare ourselves to other agents, other people, other moms. Gosh, mom guilt. Anybody here suffer from mom guilt ever? And dad guilt, it's a big thing too, right? You're at work, you feel like you should be with your kids. You're with your kids, you feel like you should be accomplishing something at work. And you really struggle with just being where you are, right? And that's the difference between the gap and the gain right there. That's the world we're trying to work our way out of. So when we live in that gap, we're always falling short. We miss the beautiful growth. It's a bully mindset to ourselves, others. It taxes and literally ages our body. And it is, you guys, a habit. And like every single habit that we have, it's going to take time, it's going to take work, and it's going to take self-awareness. It's going to be like catching yourself, or maybe even having an accountability partner and being like, you're kind of in the gap there, buddy, you know? Let's flip that around to get some gratitude going and get back in the gain again. The goal would be to transform every experience into a gain. And when in the gain, you stop comparing, competing, or even caring what other people think. Happiness is the starting point. And in the gain, we are our own and other people's biggest fan and supporter. The gain can restore mental and physical health, and it heals, it empowers, and guess what? It's a habit, right? Either one is a habit. We're going to choose our habits. We're going to hopefully choose them very wisely. So social media, like we said before, this is a really big one that kind of keeps people kind of trained in that gap, because we're always comparing our insides to other people's outsides, and that is a dangerous place to be. Oops, back again. Reality, this is my favorite thing about this book. Reality is measured backwards. We are no longer looking at you're here and you should be here, or I'm here and I should be here. Oh my gosh, look at that gap. Like that's something that we really truly want to try to remove from our existence, because it does not serve us. Ideals and goals truly are kind of make-believe. Happiness is a byproduct of realizing that you are the destination. Like right now, today, in this moment, this is our destination. There's no accidents in life. Everything is on purpose. We are all on this call together right now for good reason, right? We are enough. We are worthy of love. Perception shapes our biology. When I was with another brokerage, and we had this really great training program and called Bold, and one of the phrases, I had it painted on my wall, was your cells eavesdrop on your thoughts. And it is so true. And when we get stuck in that cycle of constantly beating ourselves up, or feeling like we don't measure up, or thinking that other people don't measure up, gosh, is our kid walking enough? Shouldn't they be walking sooner? I feel like other people's kids sleep all the way through the night. Mine doesn't sleep at all. Like we're in this constant game of comparing instead of just like being. That's when we kind of can transform literally ourselves, right? Number one reason why people give up so fast is because they tend to look at how far they still have to go instead of how far they've gotten. True story, right? I mean, who here is the same person they were 5 years ago? Tell me something that you've learned that you're really proud of yourself for accomplishing in the last 5 years. Throw it into chat. What's something that you are like a lesson learned, maybe something that you did, something that means something for you. Relationships. Make your comment, Adam. True story. What else? What's something you're really proud of yourself 5 years ago? Anybody new to real estate 5 years ago? Think of the changes, right? And then now think 5 years from now. Did you know? It's our movie. We are star, director, and writer. We get to write it. And look at serendipitously, Tom puts in the chat, discovered I'm a great writer. So cool. 3 steps to winning every day. You guys, I have been doing this for a couple of weeks now, and I am telling you, it is a game changer. Tom, you're the one who mentioned this. It literally takes 5 minutes at night. And when I don't take those 5 minutes to sit down and do this, I really feel it the next day. And it affects like the energy. I think one of the keys with doing this too is to make sure that you don't have screen time afterwards, because every single thought changes our brain activity. Everything we see changes our brain activity. So you really want to be selective on what you're thinking about and what you're doing right before bedtime. John, that's beautiful. Thank you. That's a 5-year win, dude. Awesome.
Something that I would add on the journaling, the three things. Some days, man, it just feels like a train wreck. But I didn't get hit by a train. Even if you were in an accident, I can still, whatever. It can be very, very small, or it could be, I just closed a $10 million deal, but it could be as small as I made it home safely. Don't judge, don't say it's not big enough. Write something down. You'll get into a habit where you're able to write these 3 things, and some days are just simply better than others.
And that's the key to it, that 5-letter word, habit, right? Show me the day of a man, I'll show you the life of a man, right? What are our habits? So 3 steps to winning every day. Journal 3 wins of the day. I started doing this. We have a group channel. It's called Slack. It's what we use to stay in communication with our team and our files. And I started doing this in Slack to hopefully get the other people on our team, like, start thinking about their day the next day, start thinking about their wins, even if they're not doing it, right? And this is why I think it's really important to keep engaged in training and surround yourself with high-minded thinkers, because how much are we actually implementing into our lives? Like, 1%, 2%, 3%. If we're really good, maybe 5, right? And that's why the greats, Zig Ziglar and all these other motivational, Tony Robbins, they're repeating a lot of the same stuff all the time, aren't they? Right? Because it just takes us a while to get it. We got to get into that habit. So it could be business or personal wins. Don't allow any negativity to creep in. None of that, I should have done this, or I didn't do that. Oh my gosh, I forgot to do that. Like, totally don't welcome it at all in your thought process. Only focus on winning. Journal 3 priorities, no more than 3, because you're going to be, chasing 2 rabbits if you're doing more than 3. You want to focus on tomorrow. Meditate for just a quick moment on what that looks like and feels like to win in those priorities. Set your schedule for tomorrow with time blocks for your priorities. I set alarms in my phone to keep me on task, because otherwise I have a tendency to just get so engaged in my conversation or what I'm doing. So if that helps you, maybe there's something else that helps you to kind of keep you on track with time. Without a plan for the next day, you become reactive to what's around you. You're going to lack energy, and you want to design your day to be lived proactively by you, right? I was on my way back from Duluth this afternoon in the car ride, and the snow was so beautiful, and it's just heavy in the trees, and there's like this slight foggy mist. And I was thinking to myself, wow, this is like in a movie. And I was like, wait, it is my movie. This is my movie. I'm in my movie right now, right? And so, getting us all caught up in our own movies, being present in our own movies, right? Being mindful of the gap and gain mindset throughout the day. Ask yourself, am I in the gap or am I in the gain right now? What's going on? The first step to change is, anybody know? Shout it out if you got
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness. Yeah, if we're going to change, we got to become more self-aware, right? So let's talk a little bit about things we can and cannot control, and talk about the half empty versus the half full glass of NAR excitement going on. I spent a lot of time the last few days calling people to really get a feeling for where people are at in this industry. honestly, because I care about people and I care about my team, and I care about the buyers and sellers that we're representing. And I think it's really important to just kind of gauge where people are at, and see if we can't get on a really great gain page here today with everything that's going on. So what I'm hearing a lot of fear across the phone. Everybody's talking about like media frenzy, a lot of misinformation out there, right? I'm hearing we're going to be okay. I'm hearing change is good. I'm excited for this change. I'm hearing that we need more transparency in this business, that we need to be adaptable. We need to skill up, that we need more community. We need more communication, education, confidence. We're going to have to really be secure in our value propositions, and keeping up on the industry changes. So what I'd really love to hear from you guys is how you feel. And, you know, when we talk about that perceptions, that we, you know, our perception is our reality, right? But we've all had people in our life that have lost people that they love. And you can't talk to somebody who's lost somebody they really love and tell them their feelings aren't real, right? Our feelings are real. They're as real as we are sitting here on this bobblehead Zoom right now. What can change though is that perception on how we view things, and really it's a real road paved with gratitude, truly. But what I'd love to hear is like, how are you guys feeling? How are you feeling about the industry? How are you feeling about the changes? Go ahead and just chime in.
I can go.
Thanks, Lisa.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of uncertainty. I do think it will have our industry become more professional. And I'm not saying we weren't professional, but there's a lot of sloppiness that we have been able to get away with. And big business has tried to come in and like take over our industry, and up until now has not been successful. I've been a heavy listing agent from the beginning, so I'm not as worried as if I were a heavy buyer's agent. But I am kind of wondering how it will affect commissions, you know, because while commissions have always been negotiable, we have had this understanding as a market that like 6% is kind of the standard. And yes, it can vary from there. But I'm wondering, you know, now that people know how that it's negotiable, and at the same not that they didn't know it was negotiable, and at the same time, it's like the average person doesn't really like to dicker that much. But I am wondering a little bit like how it's going to work with the buyers, because we have to have different conversations than we did in the past with buyers, and you know where the pushback's going to be, and none of us know that until we get into it. And I do know that, you know, commercial is operated this way, but commercial, it's all business people. It's not like people out of their own pocketbooks in the same way that it is when somebody's buying their own home. So that's my thoughts at the moment.
Yeah, I like it. And I'm hearing a lot of those same thoughts. So, you know, people are curious right now. Who else? Give us some feelings. What are your feelings around all this NAR industry changing excitement?
Well, I've got some feelings.
Let's feel it out, Adam.
I kind of feel like NRA kind of left us in a lurch and didn't really support us as an industry by settling on these terms. I'm getting a little bit tired about people talking about the buyers negotiating with the sellers on commission. And I'm licensed in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and the listing agent always negotiated a commission and disclosed to the seller how much they were offering for a co-op fee. But if there was no cooperating brokerage, the listing agency just kept the full fee. Like the buyers and the buyer's agents could always negotiate between themselves, but the buyer and the seller never negotiated because the seller never paid that fee. The seller always paid a listing fee to the listing agency. So the way it's getting described has just been driving me crazy. Even if you look at our Minnesota listing contracts, it says, listing will be X fee. Then it says if the listing company brings a buyer, they get the whole fee. And then it says, as a disclosure, buyer's cooperative fee will be this. So the listing agency always negotiated a full commission. And if there wasn't a buyer's agent, the listing agency just kept it. So the way it's getting disclosed, or the way this whole issue is being presented, even by a lot of our brokers, just kind of drives me nuts. That's been my issue with the whole thing.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Appreciate you sharing your feels. Who else? One more. Let's get some feels. Who's up?
I think I'm with Adam, and I like the way that he described it. And we've chatted about this as a team very a lot in the last week or so. But the whole thing is fueled from misinformation, all the way top to bottom, all the way, even at a presidential level, when you have a president sitting there asking real estate agents to reduce commissions to make home buying more affordable, when in reality it's not going to help. It's just misinformation all the way around, which is frustrating. But I think that the strong agents will thrive and survive, and I don't feel like we have a whole lot to worry about.
Yeah, I appreciate your input, Josie, very much. Thank you. One thing we've been doing on our team this last week is practicing our response to people when they ask about NAR. If you guys aren't doing this already, I would draft your response and practice it so you're comfortable and aren't caught off guard, because it's awkward and it feels uncomfortable, and your clients are going to pick up on that energy. I think we have to be really careful here, you guys, as an industry. It's really easy to get stuck in that conversation we just had about the gap versus the gain. There's a lot at stake here, a lot of lives, our families, our industry. It sometimes can be like a scary place to go. And so we have to be really mindful, I think even more now than ever, on the energy that we're carrying around this entire conversation. You want to go ahead, Mace?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm not a real estate agent, so I always get, that's my caveat to this, but I am a home buyer and we have some investment properties. And so I've been through the experience before. I'm always shocked to see things from the other side, because I resonate with what Lisa said in the term, in the sense of laziness, or not laziness, but messiness. The last investment property we purchased, we called 8 agents before somebody called us back 3 days later to see the property. Like what? So, just from that experience, and, I always remind our team, like, it doesn't take that much to be the best agent in the area, or, I don't want to encourage them to get to that point where it's 3 days later they're responding. But so I resonate with that part of it, in that it should create, it should increase everybody's, potential for growth and potential to show themselves as an expert. And then, to what you were just saying, Darcy, I was thinking, I said this on our morning call, but the worst thing you could do right now is, if you have a buyer or a seller who wants to talk about this NAR thing that they've been reading about in the news, would be to blow it off, or to give a very, opinionated and negative view towards the whole thing, and make them feel less comfortable about the whole situation. So like you said, practicing and deciding what you want to say, and coming from the gain, coming from a positive of, and being okay with saying, we're not quite sure yet, because there's some other decisions that still need to be made, but this is what my team is doing, and this is where we're coming from, and this is what we know for sure now. All of those are on the up and up, and all of those show you as an expert in what you're doing. And I'd rather talk to somebody like that than somebody who has a bitter opinion on the whole thing, or, just anything, disregarding the whole thing, making it like, oh, it's not a big deal, don't worry about it. because it's a big decision still for people to make. So that's just from my consumer standpoint.
Yeah, I agree, Macy, for sure. And sometimes when we don't know the answer, sometimes the most important thing we can ever say is, you know what, I don't know. That's a really great question. I'm gonna look into that. And when I find more information, that's how we ended our script as a team. As I find out more information, would you like me to keep you updated? Right? For people who are asking those questions. When we're dealing with problems, and it doesn't matter if it's a relationship problem, if it's a problem with team members, if it's a problem with your mother moving from out of state, if it's a problem with our health, we have the most important thing is to remember what we actually have control over, right? And so like when we're looking at this NAR thing, like what do we have control over? We have, number one, hugest thing we have control over is our mindsets. We can educate ourselves and our clients as the changes become, more as we become aware. Obviously, we don't even know what this looks like at this point in time. So we can throw out a million hypotheticals and it might not be any one of those anyway. So why waste the time and energy, right? We can scale up on our buyers and seller presentations. We can have confidence knowing we're going to adapt and grow from this in every experience. We can find those opportunities and have hopefully more industry-wide professionalism, which I think is never going to be a bad thing. So I want to hear a gap in the gain, right? I want to hear the gains around NAR. I want to hear what are the blessings, what are the lessons, what are the good things that are going to come out of this change?
Both sides are going to be informed. Clarity, power.
Yeah. Speak more to that, Tom, if you don't mind.
I mean, I mentor agents, and it's common for me to hear people say, they've asked about this, should I tell them? You're working as their agent, and unless you're having a dual agency something, you're like, it's win-win or no deal, as you've heard before, but it's really as their fiduciary disclosing everything and that you think is necessary and every question that they it just allows for a more open conversation in such a way that in the future they're not going to come back and say, I didn't know that. Or, and if they do, well, sorry, here's what it was. But there seems like there's a lot of people that want to kind of cover things or not say because they don't want to look however they look. And I hope that makes sense. But it's just more open, candid conversation.
Absolutely. I love it. Go ahead, Paige.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that I agree with Tom, and it also be a little bit, like Lisa said as well, professionalism. And also there's a lot of buyers who are sometimes hesitant because they do like work with many agents or something like that. So getting those buyer representations established prior to even being able to walk into the home is going to be a really big thing and helpful for a lot of maybe the agents that aren't confident in getting those buyer reps, presented or explaining how they actually work. So just a clear understanding. I think there was some statistic that we went over a few weeks ago that I'm not going to even try to remember the exact percentage, but it was a high percentage of buyers didn't even know how their agent got paid. Not even sure where it came from or whatnot. So I think just helping understand and make everything a little bit clearer and establish professionalism.
Well said. Very nice. Who else? What are some wins that are going to come out of this situation?
I have a win. I think as agents get out of the industry, there's going to be a lot more houses for each one of us that are left to sell.
Indeed.
So that could be a huge win. As far as what Tom was saying, you're going to have a lot of buyers that go to listing agents that will have no representation. They'll just get disclosed and have no very limited fiduciary duties too. So you're going to have a good chunk of buyers that'll go from being represented to not being represented because there's no reason for a listing agent to put them under contract and take on that additional responsibility as a dual agency when they can just disclose to them that they are not representing them and just write the contract on behalf of the seller. So there could be a lot of interesting things that come out of this.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, the people that have been doing this for a long time and have been through a lot of changes, not just in this industry, but in their lives, are going to be okay, right? We're going to pivot, we're going to adapt, we're going to change, we're going to learn, we're going to educate, we're going to get through it. I think the people who don't have that support in their lives, they don't have maybe, you know, the right mentors or community or confidence, you know, to be able to have these conversations. I think those are the ones that are going to be struggling. So we have a leg up and it's a beautiful thing. Go ahead, John.
I think that one potential gain from this could be that for like, let's say like a first time home buyer who can't necessarily pay their commission out of that loan that they're getting, it would be really cool if throughout all this legal stuff that's going on, that it became allowable for lenders to incorporate that in for a buyer so that they can't, if they could finance that, I think that that would save a lot of that problem of, for the people who, if I'm a buyer and I can't afford to pay my agent that extra commission, and if it's a difference of whether or not I have the money in my pocket or I can finance that money, I think that could be like a really big game changer, but
Yeah.
what do I know?
Yeah, for sure. You know, the government rarely closes a door without opening a window. I definitely have seen this more than once through my career. And you know, it sounds to me, from what I understand, and I certainly am not anywhere even close, nor do I want to be an expert on this subject. But from what I understand of this situation, they're already working with lending institutions to up that concessions amount. So, you know, conventional is 3%, maybe it'll be 4, 5 to 6%, and it'll be reflected, as I understand it, probably in the purchase agreement. And they're going to bump up VA so those people aren't out houses and so on and so forth. I don't know for sure. I think it could very well be like another line. Let's say you get 4 offers on a purchase agreement. And now this one has concessions and this one's cash and this one's paying their own agent and this one wants this much in concessions to pay their agent. I think it's going to be another negotiating line, but I don't know for sure. So either way, we're going to get through it. So.
I also think that it's kind of one of those things. I did a little bit of like a study myself. Just I went on Apple News and Google, or I searched the term like real estate just to see what were the top articles about real estate right now. And it's kind of one of those like all publicity is good publicity. People are talking about that the market's booming, that prices are still going up for sellers. A lot of sellers, there's a lot of news like, oh, should I wait till the NRA settlement is figured out to sell? No, there's no reason to wait. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there that is also shifting people's minds and has them thinking about real estate when honestly they've been in a little bit of a fear of a recession in the last couple of years. That's been the media's trend, is, you know, kind of fear mongering a little bit. So it's a good shift in if people are thinking about selling and buying now a little bit more.
Good point, Mace. You know, it sells newspapers, right? Whether it's correct or not. You know, it sells when you can get people kind of stuck in that fear mentality. And we've seen this across races and genders and every level in America. And I'm not a fan. That's why I personally do not watch the news. I haven't for like 12 years. I get all of my information from either little blips that give me the highlights or whatever. I'm honestly at this point in my life kind of scared to even go back because there's just it's a little out of control for me. So I just need the facts, Jack. So go ahead, Josie.
Well, I do agree that it's going to create a lot more opportunity for agents that are adaptable and capable and confident of having the conversations and being creative in writing offers. One thing that people have mentioned, and Adam specifically mentioned in this call, that there could be a lot more people going to the listing agent. And I don't know that I necessarily agree with that because like they have the opportunity to go to the listing agent now. How are we getting these buyers? But I would say 50 to 75% of my buyers are going to be opportunities that I found in our database of unqualified leads and or people from my sphere that I already personally know. And I think the vast majority of buyers are typically under contract when they find properties or identify properties, at least in my situation. So just having those conversations. I don't think that a whole lot is going to change. And maybe I'm just being naive about it, but I don't think things are going to change to the extent that a lot of people fear that it is. We still have the vast majority of buyers that can't afford to pay their down payment, closing costs, and then an additional 2 to 3% for an agent. So it's just not going to happen, and sellers are going to have to continue providing that. Otherwise, they eliminate what 50 to 75% of the offers that they would have already received. They're not going to net more by not offering it. They're going to reduce their buyer base. I guess is just my opinion. I don't know. Thinking out loud, I guess.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Paul, give us some wins around this.
I completely agree with Joe. I think that if a seller client does not want to pay a buyer broker commission, you're going to be at 3 or 3.3% or wherever you're at for just that side. And you're going to be able to say to them at the listing table, now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you go down this route and a buyer comes to me through my open houses or a sign call, which happens a lot, and wants to write an offer, and I run with it for you on your behalf to get this house sold for a great price, which is what you've hired me to do, would you expect me to take on an additional transaction and double my workload for no additional pay? Yes or no? And of course, no one wants to feel like they're making you hypothetically work double or another whole transaction for free. So if that clicks in their head, why wouldn't they pay out a buyer's agent? And the other, so we ran that script this morning. There was actually a script around it, and 3 others. And another one was, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer Seller, I understand that you do want to save that commission side. It's a lot of money. I get it. However, the initial studies and numbers that are coming out of this is that 30 to 40% of buyers in the buyer pool cannot afford the house that they want if they additionally have to pay their agent. So I have to ask you, with respect, are you willing to lose 30 to 40% of the buyer pool on your home? And there's tons of others.
Yeah, I like that, Paul. I do.
Hey, Paul, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Why wouldn't you go to your seller and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to charge you a full fee.
Yeah.
And if there's a buyer's agent, I'll write into my contract that I will, reduce my fee and offer 2.5%, 3% seller's concessions. Okay. You take a property, you list it for 200 grand, get 55.
We lose you, Adam?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get, 50 showings, 20 offers. The buyer's agents ask for nothing. You get to keep your full fee, and the buyer's agent is paying the buyer's paying their fee to their agent. So there's a lot of situations where that could happen, especially in the $185,000 to $300,000 market. So there's a lot of different situations there too.
There's so many ways to look at this and adapt to it. For me, I'm going to be taking a lot of steps to ensure that my listing side clients understand the value and importance in paying out a buyer's broker. This shift that's proposed as part of the settlement screws the lower rungs of the buyer pool, and that stuff works its way up because a person who bought their first ever home 5 years ago who wants to upgrade now into the 500K range from the 250 range, they have to be conscientious of their buyer pool buying their home, which is the most heavily impacted class of buyers in this, in order to move up. So regardless of where you are on the chain, trickle down, trickle up economics, it all applies here. It's a zero-sum game. If we lose something over here, we have to gain something over here, right? And that's why this whole thing drives me nuts. So to respond to your inquiry or your idea, I like it. It's just that I see that coming up, that sort of overcoming that objection that I brought up. Would you expect me to do double the work for the same price? Being utilized only against sellers who are against paying out a buyer broker fee.
Right, but my
And
point is that a buyer might come, not ask for a payout, and you still get to keep the whole fee. It's just kind of an interesting situation because the buyer's agent is gonna have to, in the purchase agreement, the buyer is gonna have to ask for something written in there, either a concession or not. And if you've got 10, 15 offers, I'll guarantee you that the top 3 offers, the buyer is going to ask for nothing. So it's going to be an interesting situation where, like, the cost of acquisition of that particular property, you might be able to keep a full commission, whatever that is, 4 to 20%, whatever your listing fee is, and the buyers might be paying their own agent. So it's an interesting situation where the cost of acquisition could go through the roof on these houses.
That is a fascinating point. My gut reaction, though, is that I don't want a full listing commission. And I don't know if that means I'm not aggressive enough. I don't know if that's morally sound or unsound or stupid or bad business. If that situation arose, I would just take the 3.3 that I normally charge and kick it back to my clients. I think that to do otherwise might further contribute to the problem that led to the NAR settlement, which is agents having a bad reputation in the marketplace. I think the best thing that can come out of this is that the weaker agents go down, the stronger agents up their game in terms of their value proposition, and there's more transparency so that we can get our industry perception out of the gutter.
Yeah, amen, Paul. I agree. Yeah, and it matters, right? It's all those ripples of energy, and we want to be those great drops in the pond, right? For sure. I think so. One of the best ways that I've heard so far of explaining this extra fee is an agent had said that they are going to be talking about it as like a marketing fee for an agent selling their property, and to try to get their buyers or their sellers to wrap their heads around that mindset. Like, just so you know, here's my fee, and then there's a want you to think of it as like a marketing fee to attract the buyer's agent, so that we can attract as many buyers to your property as possible. And I don't know about you guys, but one really great win that I see coming out of this industry is if we absolutely have to have contracts signed before showing a house, that is a win for this industry. It's a win. So
listing agents and listing agencies will not have to have buyer's agencies signed before showing, because they have a fiduciary duty to their seller.
I think
everybody in the agency.
I think we're still waiting for Department of Justice to kind of chime in on a lot of that stuff too. So I think we could have a lot more changes, or maybe some not changes that we think are happening. So it is top of the hour. I do want to be respectful of everybody's time today. You guys, seriously, be very careful with your mindsets right now around this entire thing, because it's really easy to get sucked into this negative loop. And I think that the serendipity of me getting this book Gap in the Gain is by no accident, because it comes at a time when I think in our industry we're really going to need it. It's going to be easy to get stuck into the he said, she said, and got caught up in all the media attention. And we really need to take some deep breaths and take a beat and remember the part we play in this, and how we're showing ourselves every day in this industry. So I really thank you guys so much. You guys have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next month. Many blessings, you guys. Bye.